I won't sleep tonight because it's so gosh darn warm. Ooh, okay. Hello. So today I'm gonna do a self read, and I was gonna do this on my other channel, but then I decided not to. So I'm here instead, and I'm doing a self read because some interesting developments have been happening within the past. I don't know how long of my life. Well, within the past few weeks for sure. I guess since Aries season, really. Well, we'll say like the last week of Pisces season. So like when all of the planets started moving, Mars into Cancer, Venus into Gemini, Pluto into Aquarius, Mercury into Taurus, or I think it was Mercury into Aries at that time. Interesting things have been happening. The Five of Cups. Why the Five of Cups with the Three of Cups at the bottom of the deck and the Six of Wands behind that and the Seven of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles and the Six of Swords and the Knight of Cups? Why the Five of Cups? That's so interesting. But anyway, Ace of Swords. I'm going to use the Mini Walda known, two SKTs, and the Lafruma. I'm going to pull before and after the... Oh my gosh, I'm sweating. I got a little napkin from McDonald's. I know. I got points to use. So I went to McDonald's. And the universe was fighting me, and I should have let the universe win. But then I ended up realizing that I disconnected from the internet, and then it worked. So I don't super regret it, though. Anyway. So back when I was in school, it's one of those full circle moments. There's a company in town that back when I was in school, I was always like, oh, I can get an internship there over the summer because it would be the perfect introduction for me to like get into what I want to do. And not super surprisingly, I guess, I got a nudge to check out to see if they had any positions up, and they did. One that I'm very qualified for. One kind of related to the work that I was already doing. So I was like, I don't really want to do this. I was like, I don't want to do this again, but I will if I have to. But it's different enough that at least I'll learn. Like, I didn't hate the work that I was doing, but it felt like there wasn't a lot of learning potential. Like, it felt very standard. Like, every day would be like the same thing, which isn't atypical for a lot of jobs, but it isn't necessarily what I wanted, right? And I got an interview. I got emailed about an interview for that place. And I had that today, and it actually went really well. And I'm actually kind of excited. I'm actually like very excited to move forward with that process. And even before the position came up, I was seeing like on the little Google News alerts, I guess. I was seeing some stuff about the company that was very pleasing to me, about different like changes that they're making to reduce environmental impacts and stuff like that. So I was like, love that. And so, yeah, because that place was one that I was originally sort of like really looking at and considering, and then I ended up somewhere else completely, it almost made the last job or the last like that section of my life when I was going through my Saturn return, it almost made it even more of like something to be experienced within that time to prepare me for whatever. Because now it's because of that job that I have the experience that makes me such an amazing candidate now for this job. Excuse me. And it's also because of that job that I'm like comfortable with doing everything. So it's like at one point it was a dream to sort of like work there. At one point it was very like inaccessible, or not, maybe not inaccessible. It was very like out there, I guess, because I never even ended up applying for anything. I'd always be like, oh, like maybe I could work there like over the summer or whatever, and it would never happen. Um, and it's like I keep sneezing, and I feel like my sinuses are draining, but I'm not like I don't feel super allergy-y. It's kind of wild. The Empress came out of the Revelations edition, and the Shining Waters is at the bottom of the deck. Knight of Cups. The Ace of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune ended up coming out under this Five of Cups. Um, but yeah, and then again, like when I left that job, I pulled cards, and Thorn came out as a symbol of like what that job and that time in my life was, and it was like a giant portal where within that there were a lot of things that were being resolved, but also there were some things that may have like some things that came up to be resolved within it as well at the same time. So, oh my gosh. Ugh. I should have turned my fans up or opened the window or something. I'm using this lamp. I did end up setting up, literally setting up or sitting up my other camera, so it's a little higher quality than my webcam. But yeah, I was like, wow, so that like really was whatever. And I got off the phone, and it just like it went so well, and it feels so right, and it's like a lot of what I hoped I would have been getting at that last place. It's looking like I'll actually be able to get here and more. Um, so I'm excited, like I said. And I was talking to my journey buddy, and she was talking about how like she's realized what her work journey, what she wants her work to be like. And I've always been the type of person. I don't know if it's Saturn strong in my chart, my midheaven in Capricorn, my Uranus and Neptune conjuncting in Capricorn. I meant to say Neptune, but I said Uranus. But like, I've always, not always, but like the pencil pusher, cubicle, water cooler lifestyle, like that's always like attracted me. Like I've always wanted that, like my own little cubicle where I could put up like like pictures and have my calendar, and then you go to the water cooler and people are like, oh, how was your weekend? How was little Bobby's ball game? Like I know for a lot of people like that's really boring and they would hate it, but for me it's always been something that I wanted. So for me it's what I want, and it takes all kinds of people to make the world work. And for the people who that isn't for, if they can go and pursue what they want, and then people like me who love to do the boring office stuff do the boring office stuff, everyone's happy. Everyone's feeling fulfilled. And as things move and shift, it's going to require certain things, certain knowledges, or it could be beneficial to like build and expand off of what we have now and where we are, rather than to like try to reinvent the wheel all over. And it would require someone with some know-how to like facilitate that process or to help bridge it, and I wouldn't mind being that person, and or being a person in that like capacity, you know what I mean? So long story short, it's what I want. The keeper is at the bottom of the deck, can't get rid of her. So anyway, I'm gonna pull before and after, not stankness, not swelgeness, thorn. I'm gonna pull before and after thorn. And I saw I've been saying on my other channel like how plainly, Six of Swords at the bottom of the deck, how plainly I can see some of the reasons behind certain challenges and experience, especially within the past few years that I've gone through because of what I'm now able to do. And I was on Facebook stories today for, I don't really know why, I don't even remember. I was waiting for my mom so we could go to the gym. Um, and I ended up running across the story from someone that I met years ago. As I was thinking about how now I'm in a position to take on the advice that was given to me by the person, like I met two people at the same time. She was one of them, the story I saw today, and the other one was another guy. But I've been thinking about the other guy's advice because of where I am now and how I'm receiving it. Uh, and she was talking about what she's doing and everything. And I was like loving it. I was living for it, of course. Um, and then I replied, I said something, and she asked me how I was, and I told her like how I am. And I told her that, I was glad that I met her and the other person when I did, because now that I'm ready to receive and now that I'm ready to expand, there's a lot that they poured into me that's now like starting to come above the surface. Seeds that they planted within me. Was fortunate to have so many people plant seeds in my life when I was in a moment of not even remotely being ready to receive it. But now that I am, it's like plants are popping up all over and it's gorgeous. And I thanked her and stuff, and I told her some stuff, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, like I really needed to hear that today. Thank you." Because I was wondering and questioning, like if I made the right choice or if I made the right decision. But because of you, like I know that I had that impact. So thank you for sharing this with me today. And I was like, glad to make a return on that gift. Like glad to let you know, because it's the least I can do. But when I first got the La Fruma, there were some cards that I pulled, and the takeaway was like, it's almost like collective healing. It's very like pay it forward, but it's what we do for each other. Um, and I just thought that the timing on that was interesting. And I don't like, again, with that phone interview, everything felt so like good and it felt so right. And then I got the rejection for the other place, and I was talking to my mom. So this was another one of my things too, because sometimes I'll be like, I can't make a decision, and like I'll let the universe decide for me. So if I have, like, if I'm in a place, if I'm in a space of new beginnings, and there are multiple things that I could see myself doing, and no matter what I do, it's going to work out for me. Like I put out feelers in all of these areas and arenas, and the one that gets back to me is the one that's like for me to proceed with, like verified and validated by the feeling that I got, like when I got off the phone with the phone interview. Also, like with the circumstances between me finding out I had the phone interview, it was like synchronizing in a way that was like very beautiful. And then at first I was like, I don't really want to get in the lab again and blah 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 blah. But when I was telling my journey buddy about it yesterday, she was like, she reminded me that it was like a dream of mine, that it was like a major goal. And it's not that it doesn't align with me anymore, because it does. Long story short. Um, and yeah, I felt like I was going somewhere. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I just checked my email before I started this, and I found out I'm not moving forward in the other position. And my mom was like, if you get both of them, like, which one would you take? That was earlier. And I was just telling her, like, for the type of work that I want to do, I feel like it could be beneficial for the job that I got rejected from. But for the industry that I want to work in, and like the areas in which I want to have an impact, I would much prefer the job that I'm moving forward with. And it's not that I can't experience like the things of that other industry, because that I can kind of get anywhere, honestly, which is another pretty good thing. Um, and I've never really wanted to be. It's in the automotive industry. I don't like cars or care for cars. And then I got that, like the letter or the email that was like, we're not going to move forward. Also, I didn't I didn't do my resume up. Like I could have done my resume a lot better to make me look not even to make me look better, but I could have done my resume better. I could have communicated my experience better to make it more clear the experiences that I have that apply to this, rather than like approaching it the way that I approached it. Um, so yeah. Anyway, excited, but it made me think of the thorn because I'm like I had this whole because even in the interview she was like well like why this position or like why this company and I was like well and it's like more information than she necessarily needed but I was like this company for me was always a goal but like I uploaded my resume and the other one reached out. So that's why I went for that one. And I don't think they really had any positions really either. Um, at that point in my life, like that last job, it came to me. I uploaded my resume on LinkedIn or Indeed. Didn't even really complete my profile, and then I got that opportunity. Again, so grateful for it, even as challenging as it was. But with as challenging as it was, there are things that I can do that I would have necessarily known how to do, you know? So excited. I was like, oh, that Thorn portal. Yep. And now it's dropping me. At first, I thought it was just leaving me wherever, but it's kind of positioned me right where I want to be. And there's a friend who started working out here. One of my old coworkers, she's still out here. So it's so wild because yesterday, um, I had like two old coworkers. One of them stayed local, the other one transferred. The one that transferred emailed me, or she texted me. She was like, "Hey, do you remember how to work the machine? Because we're trying to get it set up for an hour or whatever here." And so we were going back and forth. And I told her that I had a phone interview at this place, and she was like, "Oh, like the girl who stayed local, she's still out there." I was like, "What?" And I loved her. I like from the time she interviewed, I loved her. She's amazing. She's awesome. So I'm gonna be excited to like work. We're not gonna be in the same department, but I'll be excited to like work sort of in tandem with her. Well, I guess we'll be in the same department, but we'll be in different like areas. So that'll be fun. All right. Now let's get this self read started. I'm mostly doing it for me as well. I like doing them live because then I don't have to take up space on like my iPad or my phone or whatever. And I could also like just like record it, upload it private or whatever. But I don't know. Something about being live helps keeps me honest. And I'd rather do it over here because I don't know. I just follow the energies. I might, depending on how warm I get, I guess, I might build another spread on the other channel using the Archeo because it's something that I've been wanting to do. I also feel like I kind of sort of made a decision to shift where I read, I guess, and I can tell. But then now it's seeming like because of the way that like title cards and stuff are coming out, like there's a path or a set of paths that aren't for me to read. So like they may come out as like title cards for me or like behind that energy of like live life and find out. Um, and I don't know. I don't necessarily. It's never been a goal of mine to have an audience. Like the other channel was a personal channel. Like I had videos on there from like vlogs I did while I was in college so that I could watch them back. It was like content for me to watch back. And then when I started reading on my channel, it was kind of sort of just to see if I could. And then there were a few people who like noticed me. Or I guess there were people who would like I was in communities with, and they would click through to my channel. And they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you uploaded content or did whatever." And then I met people who started like mentioning that I do, and from there it kind of grew. I guess that's all to say that I don't consider my main channel to be a tarot channel. So if I put other stuff up on there, like that's my prerogative. But also, it's not my intention or goal even necessarily to have a certain audience. So if I do shift readings in a way that like doesn't apply to certain folks, then I guess they had me for the time that they had me. If they resonate, they do. If they don't, they don't. And it's not for me to be for everybody because I already know that I'm not, and I'm not trying to be. So we'll see. But energy's moving forward. And yeah, this is already shuffled. Bottom of the deck is Leech and Protection. Okay. Leecha and Protection. Leech is like energetic, emotional drains, and then it's protected. This is interesting because these energies came out together for something. It was something big, and it was like the leech. It was like when we're ready. It was like unless we're ready for something, then that pathway will be like blocked off because it requires a certain vulnerability that the a standard leech energy like it would almost crumble, or it might not be able to like handle more vulnerability than one would be comfortable with. I'm looking before and after Thorn again, and it's interesting because the card literally just came out when I was reading. Like I pulled a few from this for myself, and I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." And I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense," because now I'm going back to that dream after I had a little detour, a very necessary and a very appropriate detour, a detour that I'm glad happened because now I know like better how I want to sort of navigate my path moving forward, and also because it gives me time to see if I still want it or to like tweak some stuff to make me more prepared and more qualified for that, if that makes sense. So plus I'll get to build a network, and yeah, it'll be fun. Goodness. Oh, here's Thorn right here. So, and it's funny because this is also a card that came out for me. Sunstetta, Rarefied Solstice, Thorn. I'm going to put these cards, I'm going to put all the clarifiers back in the deck. I'm not going to pull them out just in case. Actually, this one I am going to pull out. And then I have Hang True, which also came out recently. And Hang True, for me, there are a few runes that for me say a certain thing because when they were introduced and they're raking, like a certain message, feeling, or visual came to me. And so for me, Hang True, it's about seeing the truth of something more so than like just a different perspective. Because I think sometimes the divine can reveal something to us, but we look at it in terms of what we want to see rather than in terms of what is, right? Like when I was doing the whatever reading I was doing before the last one, um, it was the same video because then I did like a collective with the runes, and Perth came out with Calc, I think. And I was like, there's this cosmic surge of energy that's trying to dissolve a certain blockage. And if you're open to that blockage being dissolved, then you're going to be able to like intake that cosmic energy and use it to move forward. If you resist that, then it's kind of sort of going to like fizzle out, or it's going to burst, or it's going to cause an uncomfortable increase in pressure. And then I pulled for um, the flow card. It wasn't Lagu. I was going to look at Lagu because it said Flissa, flow, Flissa. There was a card that said flow on it, and I know it. So I pulled Flissa and I pulled Anwilla. Flissa if we allow that energy to flow, Anwilla if we don't. And I was originally like, I had the narrative. I was already feeling the energy of like, if we don't allow it, it's going to cause this uncomfortable pressure. And then like on that side, the Two of Wands, the Eight of Swords, and the Ace of Wands came out, and then it was clarified by Strength. And I had to acknowledge that it's like, even if you choose this path, it can work out. It may not be like as, it's almost like the flowing has more challenge on the front end of it to dissolve that blockage, but after it's dissolved, again, I don't know if it's the access to that energy or if it's what's overcome within the self, but it's like it came out with the sun and it's gorgeous and it's beautiful and it's a lot easier. But with the other one, and Holly mentioned like the energy of resilience, but it's like with strength, it's something that always has to be there. Like if it's not resolved, then that strength, that resilience, that vigilance and diligence has to always be present, lest you sort of crumble, right? Or lest we crumble. But it ended up working out, so I had to acknowledge that. There are a few times where I'll think that something goes some way, or where I think that something is going somewhere and the cards say otherwise, or like there be a path that doesn't necessarily align with my truth, but since it's like general and since the cards and spirit is saying for those on this path is going to work out, I have to acknowledge that. That's like the hang true, right? That's like reading it as it is rather than like the narrative, the story that I was already running. So next, what I'm going to do is I have 37 and 75. 3775, and then 3 is Thorn. 37 is the Hanged Man and the Chariot. 75 is the Tower and the Hierophant. So in the Vitruvian, I'm going to pull before and after Hangman Chariot. In the Revelations, I'm going to pull before and after Tower and the Hierophant. And then I have this little deck to clarify even further if I want or if I need. We'll see how deep I go with this. So I'm going to do the tens place across and the ones place diagonal. Not like, I guess I'm just saying it because you can't see the, I don't know where my other camera went. So I don't, like, I have a camera that's not this one. This is one that I was gifted to put it on the table, but that's fine. I am going to give this another shuffle, though, because a card came out. I saw someone, like, instead of shuffling, like, this way, she was shuffling, like, I can't even do it. This way? Like, backwards? I was like, what? Like, how do you even do that? I don't know, anyway. All right, that feels good. We're going to cut it. So before and after the Tower and the Hierophant, bottom of the deck is the Warrior, who's been coming out, the Ebony Shield, the Sanctum of Treasures, and the Herald of the Flame, Awaken the Brilliance, who's also been coming out. On the other side of that is the Ivory Shield, who came out yesterday, the one who safeguards our heart's desires. Because the Nine of Cups was behind her. Do these have numbers? Yeah, so I'm looking for... Wait. Yeah. The Tower and the... Oh, here's the Hierophant. So one's place goes this way, and I'm leaving the clarifier inside the deck. No, I need the Tower. And the Vitruvian Hierophant and the Revelations Hierophant carry different energies. The Revelations Hierophant is like a new Hierophant energy. The Vitruvian Hierophant is like an old Hierophant energy. That one also came out. So the energies around Hang True are the Two of Cups, the joined one, the Queen of Wands, the Golden Shield, Sanctum of Splendor. This came out at the end of the video, the last one on the main channel. The Eminence, Nine of Pentacles, and the Dynasty, 10 of Pentacles. The 9 and the 10. Wow. The Eminence, the Dynasty, and the joined one. What's interesting is the Dynasty came out on the other side of the Tower. So here's the Guardian of Splendor. Here's the Sanctum of Splendor, and then the Dynasty Ten of Pentacles, which is like all of the earthly material abundance. Oh yeah, bottom of the deck is the Warrior. Already talked about that. Next, I'm gonna do before and after. Who was it? 6037. So that's before and after the Chariot and the Hangman, which is the Outlaw in the SKT. Interesting. Who is warm? I should probably. So I didn't tell there's a new card shop that opened up in town. And I don't necessarily tell people that I read cards, if you know what I mean. Un momento por favor. I'm going to leave these here, though. Ooh, Justice. Love that. And it's funny because, so, like, one of my friends, we connected because we went to the same university. Like, we were both going to Purdue. Only 3 people in my graduating class went to Purdue. There was one girl, literally, from kindergarten to college, we went to the same schools. And so I knew her pretty well. And then there was this other girl who I had never really known. But when I found out she was also going to Purdue, then I was like, oh, like, let me get to know you because I ain't going to know nobody. Everybody else was going to the university that's like still really good, but like half an hour away. Ooh. Oh, the so what? The so what? Falling down my face. We skipped spring and went right to summer. Ugh. I know. What do I know? Allergies are gross. Okay. I know y'all saw me just chuck that over there. I'll get it later. Okay. And I wrapped it up so the snotty parts are on the inside. Nothing's gonna, anyway. Bottom of the deck is the Journeyman, which I literally just talked about, with the Angel and the Shining Quarry, the Knight of Pentacles. Oh, and then the Bread of Life is behind that. Interesting. Wait, no, I don't. I think I put these back in the same order. Yeah, because the sun is still at the bottom. Hold up. Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking before and after the Outlaw and the Chariot. Your chariot. Well, there's the Chariot. That was quick. So the Chariot goes up and down because it's the ones place. And then the Hangman goes across because it's the tens place. And that's how I said I was going to do it. The Erudite, the Emperor, the Ferryman, the Holy See. Who is it in the other deck? It's the Holy See in this deck. I don't think it's the Holy See in the other deck. I'm going to check again after I find this because I'm just curious. There's the Outlaw, the Initiate, and the Archangel of Glory. So this one is, oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, this is getting a little warm. I don't think this was too loud, but I'm gonna turn this fan on because my laptop's getting a little warm. I hope it's not in performance mode. One second, I'm gonna check real quick because it can be in. It's in sport mode. Why are you in sport mode? We got a green. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not doing anything sporty. No wonder why I was getting so warm. I have a gaming laptop that has like sport mode when it needs to be like intense, and then other modes. We can put it on green mode because yeah. Oh, 50 degrees Celsius. That's pretty hot. One second. Then it's got multiple fans in it. Yeah, okay. I should have checked that yesterday when I noticed it was running warm and I wasn't even doing anything. But anyway, I'm going to turn that back on for a second. So, before and after the Holy See, the Hierophant. No, no. Before and after the Chariot was the Magician and the Contender, Five of Wands. Both of these cards came out yesterday. On the other channel, I pulled the Vitruvian edition for Mars and Gemini energy, and then the Revelations edition for Venus and Gemini energy, because there was some tie-in connection between like when Mars transited Gemini and now that Venus is transiting Gemini. Highlighted for me by some random in the moment, I guess in the energy decision that I made, and then I talked to my friend, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it makes sense." But this side was on the Vitruvian. This one actually did come out. And then before and after the Outlaw was the Initiate and the Archangel of Glory, which is interesting because the Contender and the SKT, there's a competition for the seat, for the throne and the Suit of Wands. The 5 is the competition, the 6 is the crowning. But this is the space. Oh my gosh, King and Queen of Wands. The new cycle is bringing the Queen of Wands, the Golden Shield. The other side of Thorn is the King of Wands, Archangel of Glory. Nice. Kingmaker energy. Or, yeah. What do I do with this now? I guess now I read the cards. I don't know. I feel like. So, let's see. I'll read Sunstella. Number 37, Sunstella. The place, the space where the sun shines, the spot. But what if it stopped? Sister Sun, Brother Moon, and Mother Earth dance together, and at rarefied moments they hold hands and all become one. Light is eclipsed, shadows fall and crawl around. Seasons are set with solstices so we might mark our lives. That's when we gather to hold hands and sing together, enwrapped by the magic of life's mystic cycles. So, if I read this as like the heart of a Celtic cross, and the past is the initiate, and the future is the archangel of glory, and crowning it is the magician, and at its root is the contender. It feels like this was all in preparation for a rarefied moment. The archangel of glory is the angel of art and grace, which is like an energy of creativity with the wands, and then the magician is a maker. It's a creator. On the other side is Hang True. Mimir's well of runic wisdom, a time out of time where all are welcome. Hang suspended with sublime intention. Sacrifice something sacred to scrutinize your present perspective. Mimir's instruction is clear. What that is precious to you are you willing to give to the well so you might be well? Nothing is free. For the welling up, you must offer up a fair cost or you'll stay lost. Will you hang true? And around that, in the past, would be the Queen of Pentacles, or sorry, the Queen of Wands, Golden Shield. The future is the Ten of Pentacles dynasty. The root is the Two of Cups joined one. Crowning that is the Eminence, Nine of Pentacles. And this is the point where I go like, well, what do I do with this? Oh my gosh. Ugh. Ugh. I guess I can just pull a few cards. That's what I got these for. So let's get a few clarifiers on. Do I even need these though? I kind of just want them. So the future of the past is the King of Wands. The past of the future is the Queen of Wands. There's a an energy of maybe like perfected creation or getting better at creating. So for me personally, because this is a self read, like I feel like I was good at manifesting opportunities that I was too scared to take. I was also good at manifesting when I was upset because when I was upset, everything within me was on one page and it was like that. When I'm not upset, I'm very like, well, I can see it like any way, both ways. And do I want this or do I want that? I can be indecisive, you know. But when I get pushed to a point where all of me is on one page and like, boom, opportunity. But then I'm like, yeah, but like I was mad, you know, I was upset. Do I want to take something out of being upset? Because the energy that we manifest something with is the energy that it will continue to carry. And I don't want to keep carrying that. You know what I mean? But now that I've gone through this, there's a lot of internal conflict that no longer exists. So I'm a clearer channel for manifestation, for bringing into my life the things that I want, and for envisioning things that I want as well. That was before and after the chariot, which is all about moving things forward. Now, before and after the outlaw, which is the thing that required a different perspective, this I was initiated into that journey to make me a more masterful creator with the Archangel of Art and Grace. Also, probably there may be an element here too about what I create that has impact on those around me in whatever capacity. And that was before and after the outlaw. The outlaw is hang true. Well, the outlaw is the person hanging from the tree, which is hang true. But it's like I was hanging from the tree in a certain way in the past that was very centered and centric to what I wanted, what I believed, and what I was comfortable with, what I would be able to receive more than anything, um, which wasn't a whole lot. And which wasn't anything that was like necessarily super great. Like, don't get me wrong, every now and then I would actually accept one of those amazing opportunities, but it was kind of few and far in between, and it was very playing it safe. So I never made it too far too quickly. Now, all that's out the window because I'm ready for everything. Um, excuse me. I think this is warm enough now. It's still kind of warm though. So now moving over here around the tower is the Golden Shield Sanctum of Splendor into the Dynasty Ten of Pentacles. It's almost like a life changing amount of abundance, life changing in the ways of like the things that I'm able to do and capable of doing, life changing in ways of how I spend my money, life changing and like literally like setting a new standard or being able to set a new standard of like where I go, where I live, the conditions, stuff like that. I'm also like more conscious of like my health and stuff like that. So like that earthy health part of it is also a thing that not as well, kind of, not really, but it started well, kind of, because I had a like my job got really active at one point, and when I was really active, I was like able to. I had a little bit of stamina, but I think too more so than that. I don't think I mentioned it on my channel on this channel that much, but I talk about it on my other channel all the time. And at this point, I find it hard to believe that there's someone who would see me here, but not my other channel. Um, but my eyesight, I have a genetic condition that like deteriorates my peripheral vision over time to the point where I'll be legally blind, or this is what I was told, and also gives me like really, really, really bad night vision, really poor night vision. Um, and so, because of that, there were certain things that I wouldn't allow myself to experience because I don't want to be in a situation where I can't see. And that eventual blindness caused a whole bunch of things. And it was this concerted effort of bad things that got me to believe that I didn't have an enjoyable future and a life that I'd want to live. But now that that stuff is gone, again, now that I'm no longer self sabotaging in the way of like what I manifest and how I manifest for myself and what I allow myself to receive, I can open up to the abundance that is for me. And it's an abundance that comes through the space of passions and desire because it's the Queen of Wands. It's also one that requires a certain, it requires me to show up in a certain way to be compatible or to align with it because the Queen, like that's the magnetism of Queen of Wands energy. And that's something that has changed drastically with the tower. The way that I see myself and the way that I carry, well, the way that I see myself, not necessarily the way that I carry myself more so because I'm like more open and because I like, I don't currently believe all the things that I used to believe about like not getting too close to people and what I can do and can't do and blah, blah, blah. Now, on the Hierophant axis, it's the Two of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles, the eminence. And that could be almost like the other one, but in a very similar vein of like allowing myself to grow even closer like to the divine or to grow even closer towards spirit or allowing myself to connect to the truth of who I am on a deeper level now that there aren't all of those internal things sort of like fighting against each other. Now what's interesting about I guess this contender is that before I started that job, my relationship with like my shadow had already changed. My relationship with my ego changed like May or March 2020 into April 2020. But mostly like mid March 2020 is when that really changed. But because that changed, when I went through my giant thorny portal, my shadow supported me rather than it playing a part of like sinking me deeper into depression. That aspect of my mind gave me a buoyancy instead of it having a sort of weight, which made it even easier to like perfect that creation or to continue on a path. Because it's now even internally, all parts of me are working towards the same goal, which is what I told my shadow when, that moment happened in March of 2020. because I had an abandonment wound. And one day I was thinking about it and I was like, I'm not going to abandon my shadow either because I know how much it like hurts and I know how much it sucks. I'm not going to do that to myself. And since then, like if I get too low, that the shadow part of me will be like, well, you said we were doing this and you said we were doing that. And I understand that you're feeling this type of way. But like there were things that you know are for you to do that you haven't been doing. So before you quit, before you give up, before you get too mad, before you sink too low, try the things. And then if they don't work, we can come back here. Well, it doesn't say that part. It's just like try to do those things that like you know to do, that your intuition discernment has been telling you to do, that you received to do. Like you haven't done those things yet. And so with the eminence, I feel like maybe there's an energy of like it takes the pentacles out of the earth. And it's because it's no longer dependent upon my physical situation or circumstances. Like they don't affect me to the point where it starts to like energetically bleed over into other things. What's interesting about this Nine of Pentacles is that there's like also a community here, and there's a lot of nature here. It's one of the most non-solitary Nine of Pentacles cards that I have, and it's all like from this higher place, from this higher space. And maybe that's the spirit of this perfected creation, that the future of this past energy sort of linked to, or what it initiated within me, the magician and this archangel of glory. Oh, it's the Five of Wands. I was gonna say it's surprising that like there isn't a Nine of Wands type of energy here to like hold fast to it. But like when I was saying that my shadow is now a cooperative component instead of a combative one, it switched sides in this contender confrontation conflict in the Five of Wands. It no longer fights against those things, it fights for them because it knows that it will also be included. Right. And if the shadow is included, it doesn't act out, it doesn't lash out, it doesn't do all of those other shadowy things. It's no longer the problem child that behaves poorly because that's the only attention that they get out of like a lack of love or attention or affection or whatever. They can become the genius. And again, there's something in the void. This Ten of Pentacles is interesting to me because it has the Kabbalah world tree, or the Kabbalah tree of life, but the void has blossomed with that flower. And it's solar plexus energy, I guess, because it's yellow, but also these lines are green, so it's also connected to the heart. But the void has blossomed in that. Maybe the moon and the sun in the top two corners also symbolize the collaborative effort between those. They both go towards supporting this tree of life. Trees have day cycles and they have night cycles, and the night cycles support the day cycles. It's like in the daytime, the trees, if I remember the cycles correctly, in the daytime, they produce a lot of like sugars, they produce a lot of food. They harness the energy of the sun to create sugar. In the nighttime, those sugars like chain together and start to make starches. No, hold up. In the daytime, they create the components to make the sugar. I think the sugars are actually made at night. I think the Calvin cycle is when like you have the NADPHs and the NAPHs that come in and they like deposit carbons. They chain carbons together to make sugar. In the daytime, you're creating all those like NADPs and NADPHs and NADHs. You're taking in like the carbon dioxide and the carbons, but you're actually assembling it at night. So the things are built at night and they're used, I guess, throughout the day. Which came out with the fish and the stingray. It was the fish, some other animal, and the stingray. And it was like there's something that's being done at night, or there's something being done behind closed doors that create an alignment in the light. And then the stingray comes and takes the fish to that alignment. But the fish knows it in the dark because there was a moon there. It might not know in full, but it knows at least in part that its efforts mean something, that they won't be wasted, that it's not for naught. I think for me, like moving forward, this piece is very like know that the opportunities that are coming are aligning to the higher good or the greatest good for me, especially if I can stay like I want to say like on my block. Um, but it's like this is almost like a self assuredness. And what I love about this, there's something about like this intersection between like this Four of Pentacles and this Four of Pentacles. That up here, that's creating this ace down here. This is interesting because I saw the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles is the journeyman. It's the bottom of the deck from this one, from the other side, the previous side of the thorn. And this side after the thorn starts at the 9 into the 10. And with that Eight of Pentacles was Temperance, the Knight of Pentacles, and this Ace of Pentacles. Here are the two Pentacles to go to the 9 and the 10, right here. But this Temperance, like that's all of these pieces of me sort of working together. That's me being able to like receive from the divine. This is my need to like do the things that I need to do, to take action in the ways I need to take action with the warrior, which is also the sun. And then that opens again the sanctum of treasures. So there's the sanctum of splendor on the table, and then the sanctum of treasures here as well below this warrior card. And awaken the brilliance is there, which is like it's time for me to really exist in my light, or it's time to like be seen, or it's time to show up, it's time to speak, it's time to hold a presence. And in the past of the future, that Queen of Wands energy is the one that holds presence. It's the scarlet shield, the golden shield, sorry, in this deck. What's interesting is that there isn't a lot of water here, but there doesn't need to be because of this Two of Cups. And in this deck specifically, Abyssus, Abyssum, and Wokot, the depths of me, the abyss of me, speaks to the depths or the abyss of you. So it's like this bottomless water. It's all of my water that aligns, resonates to all of the water outside of me. So there doesn't need to be like a crap ton of water here. There's a lot of earth and there's a lot of fire. Surprisingly, there's no air. But I'm gonna take that lack of air as like me no longer overthinking things, or me not being in like analysis paralysis, or like overthinking myself out of things. It's more about practicality with the Pentacles. But the first thing I needed to do was like sort myself out internally enough where I don't have like these conflicting desires, where it's like I want to be super fit, but I don't want to eat like 50 chocolate cakes every day, because those two kind of sort of conflict. You know what I mean? Unless I work out constantly and very heavily to burn 50 chocolate cakes worth of calories or whatever. I don't know how exercise works. You know what I mean, though? It's like I want like a loving relationship, but I don't want to have to be vulnerable. I don't want to have to depend or rely on anybody. I want to like I want to be in the field of my dreams, but I don't want to be challenged in a way, or I don't want any opportunity that's like that I haven't already done, that I already know that I can do. Like I want to expand, but I don't want to grow because of whatever fears are motivating those, right? Now that those aren't, like, it's like that was the most important part in the past, or in this past cycle. And again, that was with Sunsteta. It's almost like whenever the sun, the moon, and everything would come into alignment, there was this internal conflict that would almost like create a repulsive energy. Like the sun and the moon would repel each other, so they would never be able to like align, because as soon as they got too close, they would like shoot apart. Okay. So I'll use this deck to move forward. Ooh, Ace of Cups. This is my spiritual wellspring card, which is pretty cool. In this deck, in the Wild Unknown Tarot specifically, Ace of Cups is my spiritual wellspring, which is like where we sort of pinch off from the divine, if that makes sense. Like if you go beyond the wellspring, you'll be at the all. And then on the other side, we are who we are type of energy. And it's like with the hermit, it's like when the hermit goes so far inside that it reaches the outside again. It's that point. So if you can make it there and you make a request, then it'd be a lot easier for it to manifest. But it requires a pretty significant amount of internal work. High Priestess, I'm going to acknowledge that. I don't have a title card in this deck, so she's going to be the live life and find out. Bottom of the deck is Judgment. 2 and 20. 2 eyes, 2 X's, with the 10 of Wands under that. But I feel like the 10 of Wands and Judgment is like, it doesn't have to be difficult. It's only difficult when like it's only a challenge when you aren't trying, when I'm not trying, if that makes any sense. And behind that is the 9 of Swords, which is like, oh, and then there's the 5 of Cups. This is the 5 of Cups that it took me a long time to get out of. With the Ace of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune, it's like me accepting certain, like these things that I always know I had to work on or whatever. When I can lift my head, then I'll see the stars in the sky rather than the abyss, right? But anyway, it's like as soon as I stop wanting to see, or as soon as I fear seeing, that's when things become difficult. The Ace of Swords was the saving grace from that 5 of Cups. So look at it for what it is. But so again, that's just another reminder, I guess, moving forward for me to not shrink back from any opportunities that present themselves, and to not to not show up as me and my full authenticity. Because like this job in particular, it's only one of many things. It's only one area, aspect, arena of my life. Um, and it's for them all to sort of be flourishing and in balance. So I'm going to get final cards, I guess, from all of these. And then I will prepare myself to maybe build a spread on the other channel. I really want to build a spread on the other channel, but it is so warm. It is so warm. But it's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be beautiful. And for some reason, I have a feeling like there are yet more fears that I will be facing. But they won't be fears at that point. Well, I guess, yeah, they won't be fears. There'll be opportunities for me to claim what it is that I desire. Basically, my desires are going to come in, and it's going to be one of those like, are you still fighting yourself, or are you going to allow yourself to accept this now? And I'm like, I'm going to allow myself to accept this now because I said I wanted everything. And I ain't do all that work to not accept the things that I want. I've done that in the past. Like I've worked really, really hard for certain opportunities, only to get them and then to like psych myself out and to say no out of fear. I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean? That wasn't fun or great or conducive to happiness. And I'm ready to be happy because sadness isn't for me. Not anymore. I did that. I'm done with it, honestly. Not to say that challenging, trying, testing things won't happen, but I'm over that point of like letting it stop me from moving forward or doing what it is that I want or need. So, bottom of the deck is Brahm. The card that came out is Jifu. These two together can have an energy of like things coming in that are so good, that are so great, that like the gift itself sweeps out, cleans out other things of the past. It's like having, like, I'm not a huge fan of chocolate cake, right? But it's like me having a chocolate cake that's so good that I throw out the fact that I don't even like chocolate cake. It's almost like something that comes in and it's like, this is the reason why I worked through everything I worked through. This is the reason why I healed everything that I healed. This is the everything that I wanted. This is why I was doing all the stuff. This is why I didn't quit. This is why I didn't give up. This is why, like, shadow was even motivating me to continue moving forward. Because when shadow started talking to light, when shadow evolved into dark and it saw all of the things that were yet to come, it was like, oh, you're going to want this. We are going to want this. We want this a lot. We can see it. You can't. Just know that we're motivating you right now because this is something that you need to work through. Because when the thing comes, believe you me, you don't want to say no. And I'm like, okay, shadow, I'm gonna listen because I really want the things that I really want. You know what I mean? And I've already within the past year, and it's wild. I've already experienced so many things that I thought I never would. Like here in town, I never thought that I would be the person that people are like, oh, like I want to start traveling like you do, or I want to start doing this like you. I'm like, what? And then I'll be like, well, I've only been to London like 3 times, but they'll be like, that's still like, what do you mean? And like, even that's wild, where I'm like, I've only been to London like 3 times and I plan to go back in a few months and then I'll be going to India a few months after that. Like, girl, like, you must have it so good. But yeah, it's wild. And like, my journey, especially through education, was like a long one to the point where people were like, maybe you should just quit. Maybe you should just give up. How long are you going to keep doing it? Where I was kind of sort of like, not the butt of jokes, but it was like, but now that I'm actually like able to like do the work that I'm doing, that it's easier afforded to me because I have the degree. I don't necessarily have to like work up to it. And now that I have all these other opportunities, it's like that work was very much so worth it. And there were times there were times that I wish I had never started, but there wasn't necessarily a time where I necessarily had a mind to like give up. Not strongly, because it was like I'm already here, like I've already gone this far. And by the time those times came, I was closer to finishing than not. But like even when I was at work, like even when the job was really sucky and when I was working way too much and not really being compensated for it, there was something within me that never felt like it was time to quit or leave. And because I didn't, there were things that I was able to experience and heal and work through that now extremely beneficial. And it was because I stayed and worked through those things that I proved to myself that it can be done, that I don't have to run in fear of the unknown anymore or whatever. The Hierophant, the Ace of Wands, face up, Justice face down. There's the key. It's almost like action is going to be the key, or action is the key, or like desire is the key. But it feels like that the Ace of Wands being the key fits that, like how the Queen of Wands, the Golden Shield, was the Sanctum of Splendor. And me acting the Archangel of Glory, the Angel of Art and Grace, are like the thing about like those refined and honed passions and desires, now that I'm not like this canceling out thing within me. The resolution of that contender 5 of Wands energy is the key to like unlocking, stepping into whatever abundance dynasty has to bring. But it's also a healthy and rigid in a very like solid way, not necessarily rigid in an inflexible way. A very healthy, solid sense of self, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Because there were multiple fours of pentacles. And when that four stability exists in multiple dimensions and aspects of me, that's what brings forward that Ace of Pentacles on the ground. That's what creates life in the void, or gives void the potential for life. That's why it was blossoming instead of it just being that empty space. And then this is the new justice where there's the colors of the rainbow. It allows for color where everything was once black and white. It's interesting that the crow is here with the key because Wacken came out with Sunstetta when I pulled for me. Daughter of Wands, Page of Wands at the bottom of the deck, and the Four of Swords. It's this mental peace and this mental calm now when there's something that I want to do, rather than this like whole like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? I can't see. I shouldn't do this. I can't do that. Da 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 da. Now it's the Eight of Wands, and the Magician. We see that same bolt of lightning, but this time it has more colors. As that, there's the Magician again. Under the Magician is the Moon, the Two of Swords, and the Wheel of Fortune. Seven of Swords in this deck is my birthright card. That which was withheld until I reach this point, I can now receive. And it'll be quick. It'll be easy. It'll be so fast, again, because I'm no longer fighting myself mentally. There's nothing to slow it down. Nothing internally to slow it down. Then it becomes even more about positioning and alignment and like divine timing. Then the timing is truly divine and not like whenever Patrick is ready to receive or accept or whatever, right? So yeah, that was definitely an initiation. Also here, we see the same fox asleep, but once you start the journey, the fox wakes up. The fox is what sits on top of the seventh sword in the Seven of Swords. When we move, fox moves. And then there's the Four of Swords at the cut with the Three of Pentacles. Eve, hello. It's fine. It was like a self-read anyway. I was going to do it on my other channel, but I decided to do it on this channel. So now I think I'm just going to build a spread over there if I can stop sweating. We'll see what the Archeo has for us today. So, Vitruvian edition. I love this deck. How are you doing today? Have I asked? And this company is like international. And I wanted to work at an international company because I had a friend who worked at a company in the US and he transferred to the UK. It's warm for sure. Yeah, it's too warm. I can't even imagine. Like, I know someone in like Arizona and it's in like the 90s. I'm like, oh my gosh. I can barely handle high 70s over here and it's going to be like 80, the high of 80. I'm like, no, you're not loving being in the office every day. Is it at least air conditioned? Can you do, if you were like, hey, like something's come up and I need to be remote for a few days, do you think they'd be like, oh yeah? Or do you think they'd be like, no? What do you mean? Oof. I would love to eventually end up in a position that's more like hybrid. The Nine of Wands, the Malaise, came out with the Stronghold of the Veil at the bottom of the deck. The bonus card from that is this one. Okay, which one? This one. Is that the Wish Granted? It is the Wish Granted. Nine of Cups. Queen of Pentacles, the Ebony Shield. I actually saw the Ebony Shield. Power and authority of Earth. The Ebony Shield was the guardian. It was the Sanctum of Treasures. She's the Sanctum of Treasures. Is she still at the bottom of the deck? Page of Pentacles is coming out saying Queen of Pentacles. Yeah, there she is. Sanctum of Treasures, the Ebony Shield right behind the warrior, the sun. Oh, is it really? It was funny because I was literally just saying, like, because I was talking to my journey buddy and she was talking about what work looks like for her, what she wants work to look like or not look like for her. And I was talking about how I don't know if it's my Neptune in Capricorn or my rising or my midheaven in Capricorn. I don't know if it's the fact that I have like Capricorn on 2 houses in my chart. I don't know if it's because Saturn is at the very tippy top of my chart. But like, cubicle culture and like water cooler culture has always been something that I've like desired. Like you go to the water cooler and you talk about, like, well, how was little Tommy's game this weekend? Or like, oh, like, what did you cook for dinner last night? And like you go to your cubicle and you have your calendar and like, your computer and your little pictures of your family or your dog or whatever. Like, I don't know. It was always like a fantasy to me. Like, I want that. So like for me it's what I want, you know. I don't have to be the person that's like there are people who that's not for at all. I'm not one of those people. I've always like it's I don't know. Like but also like I got excited when I would get like new school supplies at the start of the year. You know what I mean? Like office supplies are things that excite me. So your introversion is extra. Like I'm usually an introvert, but in those situations and in those environments, like I feel like I kind of just love it. I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe because there are so many people who don't like that there has to be someone who does. So I'll take the hit for the human collective and I will be the person that loves that. The Nine of Wands, the Malaise, though, it's the moon in Sagittarius. For me, Sagittarius is my north node. I think it's yours too. So this would be like the moon on my north node. Oh, and there's the moon right there. Why is the malaise here? Is it just the space of like who was that? The Archangel of Healing. The Archangel of Healing behind it. Yeah. Okay. So it's just like I feel like this is more symbolic of the things that I had to like heal. And then look, the Page of Cups is right behind this Page of Pentacles. The warrior is right there. The warrior, and then there's the dynasty again. So all these cards at the bottom. The warrior with the message of this is literally at the bottom of the deck here. The warrior with that ebony shield right there behind it. It's just the stuff of the things that I needed to heal. And it's like I was talking to my journey buddy the other day, and she was talking about how she would like all of these things that she would dream of, but that she wasn't in a space to receive at the time she received the dream. And as she was talking about it in my mind's eye, I just saw like if you've ever listened to Abraham Hicks, it's kind of like the concept of the vortex. If you haven't listened to Abraham Hicks, then the vortex is that magical divine space where when we desire something, like that's where it's fulfilled. So it was like there's the desire that we're not yet ready to receive, but it goes into this space. And in this space, it's like it's being built, it's being assembled. And then we reach a certain point in our lives, or we reach a certain point in our journey where we've grown to be able to receive it. And then it's presented to us fully assembled. And it's like, do you still want it? It was that energy. So it's almost like this, like there were things that like this job in particular, things that I wasn't able to receive at the time until my moon, until the truth of who I am, or until I was really ready to go and do the internal, like, shadow, I guess, shadow work on myself, to do that healing down in there, to be able to really receive it from a fundamental level. And now it's all there. Like Page of Pentacles into the Queen of Pentacles, the Sanctum of Treasures. But with it being the Sanctum of Treasures, it's almost like it picked up something while it was in the void. So it'll end up being more than what we thought it would be at that time. Maybe we actually knew that at that time too. So it's another reason why it was difficult to accept. I did. So I applied for a new job and I got an email 2 days ago. So it was like a week ago. I was talking to my grandma about having applied for this job, and she was like, "Oh, like somebody that we know works out there. I know a whole bunch of people out there that I don't know. I know out there." But she was like, "Oh, I'll talk to him." And then I went to the gym with my mom 2 days ago, and my grandma, she was on the phone with my grandma. We had to like drop some water off, or she bought water that she needed my help to like take it into the house, and a bag of dog food. Um, and so she was like, "Yeah, I talked to him and I told him that like you applied or whatever, and he said he's going to talk to somebody." And then I checked my email and I noticed that I had a phone interview. So I scheduled the phone interview for today. It went really well. I feel really good about it. I applied for another job that I didn't get. I found out that I didn't get it, but it's like in the automotive industry. I don't really want to be in the automotive industry, but it seemed like a great industry to like learn like automation and stuff like that, because it would be. But because I got this job, I came on here and I pulled before and after Thorn. Because like a job at this company is one that like when I was in school, I would be like, "Oh, that company's back at home. I could always do an internship and it'd be a really great experience," because it's in an industry that's very adjacent to like my top dream industry. If I stop in this industry, I still wouldn't be too mad, especially now. Um, but it was like this place that I was always talking about, like working. And I was talking to my journey buddy and I was telling her about it yesterday. And she was like, "So like you got an interview at like your dream company." And I've never really had like a dream company. Like I've had companies where it's like it's convenient to say I want to work there. Like when I was in high school, like senior year, and I didn't really fully like know what I wanted to do. It was like convenient to be like, I want to be a chemical engineer, because when I was in the 8th grade, I was assigned chemical engineer as a profession to do a report on. It was an easy, convenient answer. And there were things within it that I definitely wanted to do. There were impacts that I wanted to be able to make, or like specific sectors of that industry, I guess, or specific sectors of certain industries that chemical engineering like bordered on, that I liked. And then when I went to biological engineering, like that corner of chemical engineering became much more central to biological engineering. And this company is like a gateway. It would be like it's at home. It's the perfect place to gain experience. There are other benefits that I'm really looking forward to, which I would be happy to like tell you. I mean, not that it's necessarily a secret, but I don't necessarily feel like I gotta tell everybody on the internet. Um, but yeah, I had the phone interview today and it went really well. And my mom asked me, she was like, "What would you do if you got offers from both places?" And I was like, "Well, if I got an offer from the other place, it would more directly be in the type of position that I want. But I don't want to be in that industry long term. I don't really want to be in that industry at all. But like I said, I feel like it'd be really good for learning automation, because they've been automating automobiles for a long time. But I don't have to be there. And this industry I like a lot more. It's the type of work I'm really excited for. And the girl that I love that I used to work with, she transferred here in last May, I think. And I just so happened to talk to another coworker yesterday, and she said that she's still here. So I'm excited to be able to work with her in the same department, but not necessarily the same location. I don't know how their space is set up. So we might be, I guess, technically, but yeah. And I was like, And the reason why I pulled Thorn again is because like the last job that I had was very like it was a I guess in some ways for me because of all of the baggage that I was carrying and because of where my level of allowance and acceptance and daring was, it was an important intermediary step to make this step. Um, and after, after I left that job, I pulled some cards, and Thorn Giant Portal was one of the cards that came up. Like there was a lot of things to be resolved within that. And so I came and I pulled before and after Thorn, and then I pulled before and after the cards tens place, ones place. So that was like the theme of this self read. So oh snap. I've been meaning to comment on that because you said something. I feel like you said a few things. And then I finished the video. Maybe I was like listening to it while I was doing something. I don't know what happened. And then earlier, I was gonna like rewatch it and comment on it, but then I forgot because it's like, well, I guess I had the interview today, and then I went to the gym. But yeah, I have to rewatch it, or maybe I'll be a boss. But yeah, there's a lot of like, and she was like, after you're here for a year and a half, you can apply for any position within the company, and we hire internally before we open up those positions externally. And I was like, a year and a half, that's perfect because there are still some things that like I want to do, and it would give me time to do that. I don't want to procrastinate, you know, but if I don't procrastinate, like especially like if I can like make connections and stuff like that, I would have time to take a class, of course, to get a certification, to do whatever, to make myself more prepared for those positions. Um, and I don't know, I just felt really good when I got off the phone, and I was really excited to the point where I didn't even care that I didn't get the other job. Also, at the same time, like I redid my resume, but I didn't like highlight the things I should have highlighted. Like the most important parts I just left at the bottom of my resume. Why? I don't know. But anyway, it's fine. And again, like and it's interesting because that's the company that I didn't want to work for, but then I softened up to it. This is a company that I've like always wanted to work for. Um, and quite a few of the people that I worked with like transferred out here too. So it'll be nice to see them. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. Thank you. Okay, Vitruvian edition. I mean Revelations edition. Final card, please. Find out guide, please. It's the tower. Speak of the tower, and it shall come. The tower in this deck in particular shows the axe of Shiva. The axe of Shiva removes corruption. This ain't the tower. This is the corruptor. It's the Seven of Cups. I saw the axe of Shiva and I thought it was the tower. I mean, 16-7, same deal, right? Bottom of the deck is the Shining Gale, which is the Knight of Swords, Winds of the Sylph. And then the Angel is behind the Winds of the Sylph. Angel energy has been popping up like crazy lately. Under the Angel is the title card. Okay. Yeah, it's like very close. It's at home, um, which is nice. I don't think I'm gonna necessarily move just yet, but like the company is huge. It's a huge company with like locations all over the place. Like matter of fact, I think when I was in the UK, I looked up positions and that company popped up. So like I could be there for a year and a half and then transfer to London, you know? And then I can go bother my buddy. Um, or I could transfer within the states. I don't have to do whatever. But yeah, and it's like when I got my last job, like I took or that job was so appealing because I was like I would be able to be at home and save money. I wasn't the best adult, so I didn't save. a lot, and now I can do that. And there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to do. So you still have a brand new Notoria Angel Tarot that you accidentally bought twice. Oh snap! I forgot about that. Well, if you want a few dollars, or if you at least want me to pay shipping and handling, whatever you want, I'd be glad to take it. Even though I kind of don't have much space for new decks. But I have been seeing the same, like the angel in this deck a lot lately. The Corruptor, the Seven of Cups, all of the cups in the SKT are tied to animals that represent the seven deadly sins. So, especially in the Vitruvian edition, it's almost like no matter what cup you pick, it's not that great. I guess how sometimes having too many options can be a not great thing. But since the Axe of Shiva is here and the Axe of Shiva removes corruption, it's almost like no matter what cup is chosen, the deadly sin can be conquered or whatever, and the cup can be claimed. There's also a mirror held up to the axe, so that could be like an internal, like that internal element could speak to the malaise, which was the moon in Sagittarius, the Nine of Wands in the other one. So it's like to not get lost in that. If you have, I mean, I would be glad to make that trade. Well, I guess depending on what the deck is, I don't know. You'll have to let me know if there's anything that you want. I've low key been thinking about potentially downsizing because I have so many decks, but I'm also like low key a collector of things. But I'd be glad to give something to a great home. You know what I mean? Is there any? I guess you can always text me. But if there's anything in particular, like I feel like you know most of what I have, if not all of it. There may be like one or two decks that I haven't used on camera, but two of them I've used on this channel in that last video. So yes, text me, let me know. I'm gonna end this video. I'm gonna go to the restroom. My grandpa's here, so I'll probably speak to my grandpa. And then I will be live on the other channel using this and the other archetypes to build a new spread, and we'll see what's up. Send you some names of a deck or two that I'm willing to trade. Okay, I can do that. I'll do that. Also, like if you have a deck in mind, feel free to let me know. I almost feel like there's a deck. Maybe I'll think about it. I almost feel like maybe there's one that you've mentioned that I have that I would be willing to part with, but I can't recall it right now. But yeah, that'll be happening. Hopefully I'll get to some more information soon. I'm ready to start right now. The sooner I start, the sooner I can get vacation, the sooner I can leave the country. I've got a trip to potentially Canada to make in October. There's also a trip to the UK that I would love to make in like August. And there's a trip to India that I have to make in January. So my best friend is getting married. So, I got to be there. But anyway, thank you for being here, Eve. And for the rest of yous, I'll catch you whenever I catch you. Have a good whenever you see this. And I hope you're acting alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. Bye.